So, the Presley collision, do you have any particular memories of that?
Frank Viola was pitching, 2-1 ball game.
And there's a drive to left field for a base hit.
Can you feel it at all?
Coming from second is Presley. They should have it.
Oh, I could feel it. After that, it was like the ball was glued to my hand, and it would not leave it.
Mackey Sasser still struggling with his throwing.
Mackey Sasser, the catcher, frequently has difficulty even throwing the ball back to the pitcher, strangely enough.
That has been chronicled so much here in the New York press, and rightly so. It is a mental thing.
From earlier memory, anyone stand out to you?
A lot of them, my mind's just thinking about all kinds of things.
Close your eyes and just watch it roll wherever it rolls.
And there you see Sasser tapping the glove with the ball and double pumping, sometimes triple pumping.
He has tried everything to get rid of it, hypnosis and everything.
I couldn't figure out why I couldn't do it.
The whole thing is you have the answers inside of you. You're just not connected up.
I see them all coming together.
Mackey was sort of the poster boy with the yips because he was the obvious one. It looked funny. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finally he gets it out of his hand. But it's much more widespread than people know.
What does come about in golf, there's something called dartitis, where you're throwing darts, free throw shooting for sure.
That's one of those you don't even want to watch.
The yips are a potentially career-ending injury where the athlete can no longer do what they once could do without thinking.
Classically, when an athlete doesn't have time to think about something, when they act on reflexes, the problem doesn't come out. Chuck Knobloch at second base, if it was a fast one-hopper and he would just pivot and throw, had no problem. A slow ground ball, he had time to think about it, that's when he would just throw it wild.
Ground ball, Knobloch is there. A little bit wide. Once again, the erratic throwing rears its ugly head.
We live and die with our reflexes, and athletes especially live and die with their reflexes. And when an athlete is really struggling, that's when they start to think more and react less. But when the yips happens, like it happened with Mackey, that's an end-stage condition, okay? It didn't start with that moment he couldn't get the ball back. It kind of finished there.
I pretty much played every sport, baseball, basketball, football, and I played seasonal sports. I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida. We had a loving family, but it wasn't always an easy childhood. I had a lot of trauma that probably a lot of people don't ever see or know, and it made me tougher and made me a solid ball player. I was drafted by the Giants, and I got traded to the Pirates. I went to the Pirates and played for 2 months. And their first baseman broke his hand and needed a first baseman, so they made a trade with the Mets, and that's how I ended up with the Mets for those 5 years. I moved up because of my bat. I could hit, and being a left-handed hitting catcher really helped me.
Unbelievable! A grand slam from Mackey Sasser. Oh, what a play!
In his last 4 times at bat, Mackey Sasser has driven 7 runs in.
I was the hottest hitter in baseball.
Mackey Sasser extends the longest hitting streak of his career.
Mackey Sasser doing the job.
That was my best year in the major leagues. And then Jim Presley ran me over in Atlanta. I mean, I got hurt that day. He crushed me. He hit me down and just rolled me, and my ankles were up under me. It just ripped them, basically. The Mets doctor checked it, and they said, we're not going to DL you. I was, one of the hottest hitters in the major leagues at the time. Well, when I would catch, they'd have to tape me so thick. I couldn't rock forward down on my ankles like a catcher throws. I had to sit there in that squat position and flip it back. And that's when it really got bad. I started flipping and kind of falling back. Instead of throwing the ball on my wrist, it would just roll off my fingers. It would just up into the pitcher. And I developed a bad habit where I'd tap my glove 3 or 4 times before I could release the ball back to the pitcher. When I didn't have time to think about anything, I threw the ball and everything was fine.
The take was on, the throw got him.
A strong throw by Mackey.
Is when I had time to think about it, and that's where I had problems. My ankles got better, but it's mental. And once it got in my head more, it got worse and worse and worse. I mean, there's players stealing when I was flipping the ball back to the pitcher.
And Butler goes to third base on the throw of Sasser back to Cone. You talk about alert.
Sometimes I'd have to get up and completely walk out in front of the plate to do what I need to do to get it back to pitcher. Or sometimes they would meet me to make me feel better. The pitchers, you know, they have a rhythm they get into it, and I was distracted in that. And, you know, there's certain guys didn't want me to catch.
Mackey Sasser has not started because of the throwing problems. He has been relegated to the number 3 spot.
The tapping got so bad, then people started noticing it. Then you happen to be playing in the, you know, media capital of the world.
That situation with Mackey Sasser has become downright ridiculous.
That has been chronicled so much here in the New York press, and rightly so.
Harrelson wisely keeping him on the bench.
Once they did that, you had people in the stands starting to do it. You know, 1, 2, 3. I mean, it just magnifies it.
Mackey Sasser behind the plate.
I heard everything that went on. I could hear the little chatter, or I could hear the loudmouth. I mean, I got to that point where I could hear everything. When I went out on that field, it would overwhelm me. It was like a pure sweat. Oh no, I'm here. You know, everybody's looking at me. I was searching for anything at any moment to try to help me get through this. They did send me to a priest and hypnotized me a few times. All the help they tried to get did not work for me. It wasn't just affecting my game, it was affecting my livelihood. It was affecting my family. And I got to the point where it was just time for me to go. After I retired, I actually just went and bought a trailer and put it at the beach. And I spent a whole year at the beach just trying to get away from all the stress. It ate at me for a long, long time, and I really couldn't find peace.
I have headphones here where you can hear an ocean wave going back and forth. What that does is when the ocean goes to your left ear, it will activate your right brain. When you hear it in your right ear, it activates your left brain. So as it's going back and forth, it kickstarts your brain into a process that it can look at things differently.
How did you find David and Rob in that group?
I had a friend in Major League Baseball that contacted me about these guys. And I explained my story, and they said, well, look, we want to fly you up to New York, and we want to interview you and do what we do.
Mackey was coaching, and he had said to me on the phone, when I throw batting practice, sometimes I can throw it, and all of a sudden I can't.
I wanted to find out for myself personally what happened to me. And when I was going through this stuff with the Mets, I felt like they were fixing me to make me better for them, not to fix me for me.
Mackey told us he saw 50 experts. 50. When I asked him, did any of them ask about your trauma history? He said not one.
What were they focusing on?
They were focusing on the result. They were focusing on the throwing problem instead of what was behind it. And they weren't looking at the person as a whole.
I really wanted to bring out and understand everything that had led up to and culminated in his losing that ability to throw. It was a laundry list of traumas.
Walking to school, my 5-year-old brother got hit by a car. I watched it. I watched him go about 100 feet down the road. He was dead, but they brought him back. I mean, 5 years old. I was 7, he was 5. He just ran right out in front of the car.
Trauma is unprocessed memory. When a traumatic event happens to a human being, the brain is unable to fully process the experience. So parts of the experience are left frozen behind in the brain. Mackey had so many different traumas, it was just like it was like balls loading up in a waste paper basket until it gets to the point it just overflows, and it all comes together to that final yips outbreak. Once I got in a room with them, I just started opening up since I was a child. You know,
all the trauma stuff that had went on throughout my lifetime.
Growing up, my father was an alcoholic. You know, he had a lot of physical problems. He had rheumatoid arthritis in his back and his spine and everywhere else. So, and he couldn't even throw a ball overhand. He'd get out in the backyard with me and throw it underhand and throw it hard, you know, and play catch.
Okay, just go back to what
So, you know.
Go back to what you did. You couldn't throw the ball overhand?
Right.
Say
He'd take it and whip it underneath.
Okay. But you said
he could not.
Okay, just do that motion.
He could not throw it overhand.
Okay.
It was all underarm.
Does it feel like there's any connection there?
Yeah. Yeah, it does, actually.
Once we had that, that's when we went into the treatment mode. I would have Mackie think of a particular trauma.
Bring up the thing with your father.
And then from there, literally find where in his field of vision it just resonated the most.
See what happens when you bring it up on this spot?
Feel emotional.
Okay. Just go with it.
Which reflects in his brain and his body where each trauma was held. And just stop the pointer right there and he'd look at it and just go into a very focused form of meditation. Sometimes it was 20 minutes or longer to really process it through. But once it had processed through and he brought it up again, he couldn't feel it. It was like it's over and done. It really was pretty much deactivated.
They find the things that sets this off, and that's what they go after.
Tell me when you start to feel any anxiety or distress as I'm bringing it closer to you.
At one point, after it really cleared out a lot, I literally took the ball and I moved it slowly towards his shoulder.
I'm starting to feel it, you know.
0 to 10.
Anxiety trying to.
0 to 10, how much right now?
5. There's actually a little fear there.
Yeah.
I mean, really, there is.
Yeah, isn't that? That's why we're doing this. 0 to 10, what's the fear level?
7.
In your body? Where?
Like all over.
Keep going. I'll hold it here. Just watch where it goes.
Until I could get it all the way to his shoulder where he didn't get activated at all.
I'm okay with it right there.
Okay.
Because I know it's not going to affect me.
Okay, good.
So it was a very active way to help him to release the traumas that had been held for so many years.
I want you to actually go through the motions.
You know, you catch it, you take it.
Slow it down, even slower.
You bring it up. I always turned in, most people turn out.
Okay.
And throw the ball.
Hold your hand in that position after it's released. Look at the spot. How does it feel?
Feels fine. It's out front where it needs to be.
Now I want you, as you do this, to watch the ball go back to the pitcher.
What they did was they helped me understand that you can overload that part of that brain with trauma, and they released me from all that stuff, and it really helped me. I felt like a lot of weight was taken off of me there.
Okay.
It's a matter of clearing out, resolving, creating clarity and distance, and then all of a sudden, the athlete, the performance just happens.
Okay. In order for you to complete this process, you got to be able to go out there and do what you couldn't do before.
I can do it. I've learned a lot about myself today. More than I learned in a long time.
I'm in a good place. It kind of broke me free of all the stuff I had in me. I mean, all the buildup of all the pressure of everything, it kind of just took it away from me.
1, 2, 3, guys!
And, I still, every now and then, I kind of go back to some of the stuff I've done when I throw batting practice. But I can go sit down in the dugout for 30 minutes, and I can get right back out there and do what I have to do. I've learned how to help myself get through things. It made me a better coach.
Well, you got to do your thing. All right, relax, throw strikes, let's go.
It made me a better person. Now I understand how to release all that pressure and how to just let it go.